bath, bath.
bath, bath, bath.
Every man has a right to a Saturday night bath.
Every man has a right to Saturday night bath.
I took a bath before going to bed.
I took a bath before going to bed.
Journal,
Journal,
journal, journal, journal.
journal, journal, journal.
I started writing a journal, and I was learning so much along the way.
I started writing a journal, and I was learning so much along the way.
Writing in a journal can be a very relaxing and beneficial activity.
Writing in journal can be very relaxing and beneficial activity.
He hastily tore off the cover, opened the journal with nervous precipitation.
He hastily tore out the cover, opened the journal with a nervous precipitation.
He hastily tore off the cover, opened the journal with nervous precipitation.
He hastily tore out the cover, opened the journal with a nervous precipitation.
Freeze,
Freeze,
freeze, freeze, freeze, freeze.
freeze, freeze, freeze.
I wish I could freeze time or go back in time and watch my kids grow up all over again because it is just going by too fast.
I wish I could freeze time or go back in time and watch my kid grow up all over again because it is just going by too fast.
The water on the lake began to freeze over as the temperature dropped.
The water on the lake began to freeze over as the temperature dropped.
Get a warm shawl, she'll freeze in this cold night.
Get a warm shower. She's freezing in this cold night.
Flow,
Flow,
flow, flow, flow.
flow, flow, flow.
Flow,
Flow,
flow, flow, flow.
flow, flow, flow.
The opposite for courage is not cowardice, it is conformity. Even a dead fish can go with the flow.
The opposite for courage is not co-RDB. It is comparative. Comparative. Even a dead fish can go with the flow.
The flow of the water sounded very soothing.
The flow of the water sounded very smoothly.
The flow of the water sounded very soothing.
The flow of the water sounded very smoothly.
And once again, when the river had just increased its flow in the rainy season and made a powerful noise, then said Siddhartha, "Isn't it so, O friend? And once again, when the river had just increased its flow in the rainy season and made a powerful noise, then said Siddhartha, "Isn't it so, O friend? The river has many voices, very many voices."
And once again, when the library had just increased its flow in the rainy season and made a powerful noise, then said Siddhartha, "Isn't it so, O friend? The neighbor had many boys, very very boys." Neighbor, neighbor.
Hip,
Hip,
hip, hip, hip.
hip, hip, hip.
I recently have had a full hip replacement and a liver transplant, and I'm getting used to the medication.
I recently have had a full hip replacement and liver transplant, and I'm getting used to medication. I recently have had a full hip hip replacement and liver transplant, and I am getting used to the medication.
With her hand on her hip, the woman scolded the children for being too noisy.
With her hand on the hip, the woman scolded the children for being too noisy.
Gentle.
Gentle,
Gentle. Gentle. Gentle.
gentle, gentle, gentle.
Laws too gentle are seldom obeyed, too severe, seldom executed.
Not too gentle are seldom obeyed, too severe seldom executed.
Laws too gentle are seldom obeyed, too severe, seldom executed.
Not too gentle are seldom obeyed, too severe seldom executed.
My mentor has a very kind and gentle personality.
My mentor has a very kind and gentle personality.
My mentor has a very kind and gentle personality.
My mentor has a very kind and gentle personality.
Matka, his soft, sleek, gentle-eyed wife, came up out of the sea.
Maka, his so gentle-eyed wife, came up out of the sea.
Avenue.
Avenue.
The ear is the avenue to the heart.
The ear is the avenue to the heart.
Local shops line the main avenue in the town.
Local shop line the main avenue in the town.
One day after dinner, Avdotia Romanovna followed me into an avenue in the garden and with flashing eyes.
One day after dinner, Abuda Nomemba followed me into an avenue in the garden and with fresh eyes.
Fancy.
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 Fancy. Fancy. Fancy.
Fancy. Fancy. Fancy.
It's easy to impress me. I don't need a fancy party to be happy. Just good friends, good food, and good laughs.
It to impress me. I don't need a fancy party to be happy. Just happy friends, good food, and good laughs.
They drove around town in their new, fancy car.
They drove around the town in the new fancy car.
They drove around town in their new, fancy car.
They drove around the town in the new fancy car.
You all know that I had the fancy of going to Africa.
You all know that I had the fancy of going to Africa. You all know that I had the fancy of going to Africa.
You all know that I had the fancy of going to Africa.
You all know that I had the fancy of going to Africa.
Tilt.
Till.
Tilt.
Till.
Tilt. Tilt. Tilt.
Till. Till. Till.
A lot of my music is kind of contemplative, and somehow that always tends to tilt on the darker side. My inner conversation is apparently quite dark.
A lot of my music is kind of the contemplative, and somehow that always tended to tilt on the darker side. My inner conversation is apparently quite dark.
The baker panicked as her cake began to tilt.
The baker pig as her cake began to tilt.
After darkly looking at his leg and me several times, he came closer to my tombstone, took me by both arms, and tilted me back as far as he could hold me.
After darkly looking at his leg and me several times, he came close to my tombstone, uh, uh, took me by both arms, and tipped me back as far as he could hold me.
Startle.
Starter.
I hate jump scares. I really hate them. I think there's nothing special about being able to startle someone. That's an involuntary reflex, and it makes people laugh.
I hate jump scares. I really hate them. I think there is nothing special about being able to startle someone. That's your involuntary reflex, and it makes some people laugh.
Loud noises always startle me.
Loud noise always startles me.
Those who had before known her, and had expected to behold her dimmed and obscured by a disastrous cloud, were astonished, and even startled, to perceive how her beauty shone out, and made a halo of the misfortune and ignominy in which she was enveloped.
Those who had before known her and had expected to behold her, her demeaned and executed by the bestarred clothes were astonished, and even started to perceive how her beauty sharp out, and made an hollow of the misfortune and ignominy in which she was enveloped.
Spit.
Spit,
Spit. Spit. Spit.
spit, spit, spit.
I have learned to hate all traitors, and there is no disease that I spit on more than treachery.
I have learned to hate authority, and there is no disease that I spray on more than Tracy.
They spit watermelon seeds out of their mouth as they ate the fruit.
They spray the watermelon seed out of the mouth as they ant the fruit.
Saint Terentius, Bishop of Port, where the mouth of the Tiber empties into the sea, requested that on his tomb might be engraved the sign which was placed on the graves of parricides, in the hope that passers-by would spit on his tomb. This was done. The dead must be obeyed.
Saint Saint Tibet,
Saint Terentius, Bishop of Port,
Bishop
where
of
the mouth of
Porto,
the
where the
Tiber
mouth of
empties into the
empties
sea,
the sea,
requested that on his
requested
tomb might be engraved the sign which was placed on the graves of parricides, in the hope that passers-by would spit on his tomb. This was done. The dead must be obeyed. Waste.
Wait,
Waste. Waste. Waste.
waste, waste, waste.
Nothing is a waste of time if you use the experience wisely.
Nothing is a waste of time if you use the experience wisely.
I ate everything on my plate because I hate to waste food.
I ate I ate everything on my plate because I hate to waste food. I ate everything on my plate because I hate to waste food.
A waste of time.
A waste of time. A waste of time.
Length.
Length.
Length. Length. Length.
Length. Length. Length.
A city is not gauged by its length and width, but by the broadness of its vision and the height of its dreams.
A city is not gauged by its length and width, but by the broadness of its vision and the height of the dream.
She went to a tailor to shorten the length of the dress.
She went to tailor to shorten the length of the dress.
They tried to tell her what the doctor had said, but it appeared that though the doctor had talked distinctly enough and at great length, it was utterly impossible to report what he had said.
He tried to tell her what the doctor had said, but it appeared that though the doctor had told disturbing enough and great length, it was utterly impossible to report what he had said.
More.
More.
Thousands of yachts moor at the marina each summer.
Thousands more, yes.
Thousands of yachts moor at the marina each summer.
Thousands of the yachts moor at the marina every summer.
Sheriff.
Sheriff.
Sheriff. Sheriff. Sheriff.
Sheriff. Sheriff. Sheriff.
I'm the elected sheriff, and I'm going to keep doing what the Constitution says I can do.
I'm elected sheriff, and I'm going to keep doing what the Constitution say I can do. I'm the elected shepherd. I'm going to keep doing what the Constitution say I can do.
The sheriff called the man in for questioning.
The sheriff called the man in the for questioning.
They got a posse together, and went off to guard the riverbank, and as soon as it is light the sheriff and a gang are going to beat up the woods.
They got the post together and went out to guard the river bank, and as soon as it is light and sheriff and gang, the gang are going to beat up the wood.
Mood.
Wood.
Mood.
Wood.
Mood. Mood. Mood.
Wood. Wood. Wood.
The problem with having a sense of humor is often that people you use it on aren't in a very good mood.
The problem with having a sense of the humor is often that people you use it on aren't in very good mood. The problem with having a sense of the humor is often that people you use it aren't in very mood.
I was in a great mood until I heard the terrible news.
I was great mood until I heard the terrible news. I was great mood until I heard the terrible news.
His mood always determined his manner.
His mood already determined his manner.
His mood always determined his manner.
His mood already determined his manner.
Lick.
Lick.
Lick. Lick. Lick.
Lick. Lick. Lick.
We made the buttons on the screen look so good you'll want to lick them.
We made the button on the screen look so good. You will want to lick them.
The children lick their ice cream cones.
The children lick their ice cream cone. The children lick their ice cream cone.
Ruin.
Ruin.
Ruin. Ruin. Ruin.
Ruin. Ruin. Ruin.
It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that, you'll do things differently.
It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin. If you think about that, you will do it differently. It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin. If you think about that, you will do it differently.
I didn't mean to ruin all of your hard work.
I didn't mean to ruin all of your hard work. I didn't mean to ruin all of your hard work.
A figure crept stealthily through a break in the other end of the ruined building, now, but they did not notice it.
The bigger concept secretary through a bank in the other end of the ruined building now, but they did not notice it.
Arrest.
Arrest.
Arrest. Arrest. Arrest.
Arrest. Arrest. Arrest.
An unjust law is itself a species of violence. Arrest for its breach is more so.
An unjust law is itself a species of the violence. Arrest for breach is more so.
The police will arrest him on charges of abuse.
The police will arrest him on the charge of abuse.
I am going to have you arrested, me, Geary, as a thief.
I'm going to have to arrest me, Gibb, as a thief.
Tumble.
Tumble.
Tumble. Tumble. Tumble.
Tumble. Tumble. Tumble.
Surfing big waves is not an extreme sport to me. I fall off, tumble down, and come up.
Surfing big wave is not extreme sport to me. I fall off, tumble down, and come up.
Be careful not to tumble down the hill.
Be careful not to tumble down the hill. Be careful not to tumble down the hill.
I discovered that a lot of imported drainage pipes for the settlement had been tumbled in there.
I discovered that a lot of the imported drug pipe for the settlement had been tumbled in there.
Ticket.
Ticket.
Ticket. Ticket. Ticket.
Ticket. Ticket. Ticket.
Reading is a discount ticket to everywhere.
Reading is a discount ticket to everywhere.
I bought my ticket and entered the arena.
I bought my ticket and entered the arena.
He happened to have a first-class ticket for Worthing in his pocket at the time.
He happened to have the first-class ticket for Worthing in his pocket at the time.
Faint.
Pain.
Faint. Faint. Faint.
Pain. Pain. Pain.
Imagination is the real and eternal world of which this vegetable universe is but a faint shadow.
Imitation is a near and an internal world of which this vegetable
Imagination is the real and eternal world of which this vegetable universe is but a faint shadow.
Imagination is a near and internal world of which this vegetable universe is but in faint shadow.
The tired woman gave a faint smile.
The tired woman gave a faint smile.
Don't you see, said Raoul, that the woman's fainting?
Don't you see, said Laura, that woman painting?
Basement.
Basement.
Basement. Basement. Basement.
Basement. Basement. Basement.
I've got 4 brothers, so with them and all our friends we had these sports parties in the basement.
I got four brothers, so with them and all our friends we had those sports party in the basement.
I repurposed our basement into another bedroom. I repurposed our basement into another bedroom.
I repurposed our basement into another bedroom. I repurposed our basement into another basement.
The passage was a long one, and seemed to pervade the whole square basement of the manor house. We traversed but one side of the square.
The passenger was a long one, and seemed to pervade the whole square basement of the manor house. The travel but not one side the square.
Cabin.
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 Cabin. Cabin. Cabin.
Cabin. Cabin. Cabin.
The only place I've felt was really my home is my cabin up north.
The only place I felt was really my home is my cabin up north.
I always feel refreshed after spending some time at our cabin by the lake.
I already feel refreshed after spending some time at our cabin by the lake.
I now found him on board the Pequod, quite at home there in the cabin, and reading his Bible as if at his own fireside.
I now found him on board and pillow, quite at home there in cabin, and reading his Bible as if his one by side.
Robe.
Love,
Robe. Robe. Robe.
love, love, love.
The wrap dress is the most traditional form of dressing. It's like a robe, it's like a kimono, it's like a toga.
The lap dress is most the traditional form of the dressing. It's like a robe, it's like a kimono, it's like a toga.
He wore a traditional robe to the ceremony.
He wore traditional robe to the ceremony.
Lady Lin was a large and stout personage of about 40, very erect, very haughty-looking, richly dressed in a satin robe of changeful sheen. Lady Lin was a large and stout personage of about 40, very erect, very haughty-looking, richly dressed in a satin robe of changeful sheen. Stack.
Stack.
Stack. Stack. Stack.
Stack. Stack. Stack.
I had a job when I was 15 working at a supermarket, and I knocked over a stack of plastic coffee cups.
I had a job when I was 15 working at a supermarket, and I knocked off the stack of the plastic coffee cup.
I put the books in one large stack on the shelf.
I put the book on one large stack of the shelf.
Roused into new strength and energy, and stimulated by the noise within the house which announced that an entrance had really been effected, he set his foot against the stack of chimneys, fastened one end of the rope tightly and firmly round it, and with the other made a strong running noose by the aid of his hands and teeth almost in a second. Roused into new strength and energy, and stimulated by the noise within the house which announced that an entrance had really been effected, he set his foot against the stack of chimneys, fastened one end of the rope tightly and firmly round it, and with the other made a strong running noose by the aid of his hands and teeth almost in a second. Freedom.
Freedom.
For to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. For to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others.
For to be free is not merely to cast off one's chain, but to live in the way that respects and enhances the freedom of the other.
After serving years in prison, the activist was finally given freedom.
After serving a year in prison, the activist was finally given freedom.
You fought for freedom, and it is yours. Eat it, O wolves.
Forgot the freedom, and it is yours. Eat it, or yours.
Million.
Million.
It will be difficult enough to avoid disaster in the next 100 years, let alone the next 1,000 or million.
It will be difficult enough to avoid disaster in the next 100 years, not alone next 1,000 or million.
If I had $1 million, I would buy a new house.
If I had $1 million, I would buy a new house.
Cavalcanti, continued Danglars, is about to marry you, and will place in my hands his fortune, amounting to 3 million livres.
Cavalcanti, continued Danglars, is about to marry you, and will place in my hand in his fortune amounting to 3 million livres.
Growl.
Glower,
Growl. Growl. Growl.
glower, glower, glower.
The pack of dogs began to growl as I approached them.
The pack of dogs began to glower as I approached them.
Tone.
Tone,
Tone. Tone. Tone.
tone, tone, tone.
Body language and tone of voice, not words, are our most powerful assessment tools.
Body language and tone of voice, not words, are our most powerful assessment tool.
Body language and tone of voice, not words, are our most powerful assessment tools.
Body language and tone of the voice, not words, are our most powerful assessment tool.
Her tone of voice came off as very rude.
His tone of voice came off as very rude.
Her tone of voice came off as very rude.
Her tone of the voice came off as very rude.
I cannot catch their tone of conversation, or appear interested in their concerns, as I often see done.
I cannot catch them tone of the conversation, or appear interested in their concern, as I often see them.